Hope this doesn't look weird, but bought an oversized t-shirt. Not because I'm overly humongous or anything, or I have any, you know, like size to hide. That's a good one.
Visiting us, dude. I came only for you. When are you leaving?
Hello.
Hey, bro.
Only for us.
Yeah.
What do you call your fans?
What should I call my fans? My 8 subscribers.
Your
I was actually the
What do you call your fans? Oh, were you?
effective fan.
12th subscriber.
You call them the effective fam.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Effective fan. You call the Kochak fan.
The Kochak fam.
Kochak fan.
No. We can think of something better.
Jordan, your biceps are looking pretty big there.
Hey! That's good. Wait, stay?
Yeah.
Alright, go now.
This is gonna be this video footage is gonna be memories of when there's a million subs. Okay, here's a controversial question. Are plants good for you? Are plants good for you? Yeah.
So that's what that does. So I think I'm starting to learn how to use that little filter thing. So the plan is to hit a handstand and mobility session. I'll film snippets of it. I was planning to do like a raw or a live vlog of my training session, but they have meetings there in the studio on Fridays, so I'll have to pick another day to do that. Nonetheless, I still might get some footage. I'm definitely very nervous talking to a camera in public while there's people around. And then after the session we'll go home, and I've got to jump online for the weekly call as part of the institute I'm in, which is the Carter Institute. I might show some detail of that and then catch up with you guys in the next one. In the next clip.
I'm not doing some like keto diet.
Gut health.
I'm just like trying to like get more. Like I've had some luck with this in the past where I was doing like more keto eating. Like, oh, bulletproof like I was.
In depth about that because have you put on weight recently? Or yeah, I was gonna say I remember at one time. I'm not saying it's different now, but you looked like really lean, like. Really lean. I was he looks super like
Straight.
Yeah.
It was like I was like an MMA fighter on his weight cut.
just like constantly.
Just like all the time. That teaching clients to do the same thing. But like right at 50 and finishing yourself.
Well, that's it, right? Now you can make it super relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we look at the whole kind of profit is referred to as the bottom line, this frame puts profit last, and that's the wrong concept, okay? So Parkinson's law is literally what I just mentioned. As the supply for something increases, as does the demand. So if we've
Okay, so prior to my training session the other day, one of the coaches or teachers at the studio and I had a brief discussion around training, nutrition and body weight. And it stemmed from me querying him about the fact that he is actually looking slightly heavier than normal. In which way he replied yes, and that it was actually deliberate and intentional, due to the fact that he had been feeling lethargic, amongst other things, the previous body weight and body fat percentage he was at. Now, I know that's a brief intro, but that leads me on to the phenomenon known as energy availability. So, energy availability just refers to not only having sufficient energy for the demands of the sport or training regime, but enough energy to sustain normal metabolic and other physiological functions. So, one thing I would have liked to have discussed with the individual, but didn't, is whether or not their weight had been stable. Now, although a reduction in body weight can be an indicator of underfueling, an individual can be at a relatively stable body weight and energy balance and still be in a state of relative energy deficiency, or REDS, which can be connected to a host of other systems within the body, such as cognition, strength, performance, and in particular, a downregulation of reproductive and metabolic functioning, all in order to ensure that the individual maintains an energy balance. One example of this is the thyroid, which is a key regulator in how much energy we liberate. Secondly is that we see a decrease in NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, essentially referring to the amount of energy we expend that is not related to exercise, sleep, or eating. For example, how fast I might be talking to this camera, how many times you sit up and down in a day, how fast you blink, how fast you type. You get the idea. The original literature on energy availability demonstrated that when energy intake was maintained, but energy expenditure increased, there was a reduction in certain metabolic functions. And that was reversed when energy intake was matched for the amount they were expending. Now, it may seem obvious that energy availability is just the same as energy intake. And that, of course, if a person is having a reduced intake or a difference in those two, that you'll experience some negative consequences. And you're right. But the caveat here is that such symptoms can arise despite having a steady body weight and an energy balance. For instance, a Finnish study of female physique competitors, in which they compete in physique competition, demonstrated that not all women had their menstrual cycle return back post-competition despite gaining weight over 3 to 4 months. In respect to gender differences, for many women, they may experience an onset of symptoms at different varying levels of severity at energy intakes of about 30 to 45 calories per kilogram. Or perhaps lower. For men, it's speculated that the threshold is around 20 to 25 calories per kilogram. Meaning, despite having a similar relative energy intake between men and women, say 30 calories per kilogram, men may fare better compared to women in respect to the onset of symptoms related to metabolic and reproductive function. Based on the literature, it seems that maintaining greater than 40 calories per kilogram for men and 45 calories per kilogram for women is an adequate amount to sustain weight and normal physiological function. However, it's important to note, and I stress very importantly, to note that to not just look at the numerical relationship and look for other signs and symptoms related to low energy availability. This may include things like reduced performance, frequent illnesses, poor irritability or poor mood states, and persistent food focus. Even though you're not burning through a heap of calories through training, yet you maintain a lower level of body fat or body weight compared to what your body wants, which often means lower level of energy intake compared to what your actual body requires in order to function fully, means that you may have a drawback on some performance markers. So with all that, what do you do? I think the first step is to just be aware of the trade-offs that exist with a reduction in body weight or body fat, and actually recognize that it's not good or bad. Meaning, dropping a few kilograms or lowering your body fat percentage could be really good, or could be really good in facilitating better nutrient partitioning, meaning essentially the way in which that you shuttle or utilize your nutrients. Therefore, you'd want to determine a point that you can sustain and adhere to, as well as just understanding the potential drawbacks that come from increasing training volume or decreasing energy intake. Remember relatively low energy deficiency can occur despite being at a stable body weight or at energy balance. So look for other signs and symptoms outside of the numbers approach that I mentioned earlier. Then lastly, or third, is to just be careful of not focusing on small stuff like timing and supplements, especially in the beginning, and ensure to fill up the big rocks first. In respect to nutrition, the big rocks would be things like, again, adherence, energy balance, macronutrients, and then consider, and it doesn't have to be in this particular order, but then consider the type of quality in which that is making up those macronutrients. Thank you, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it useful, and thank you to all my 12 subscribers, and I'll catch you on the next one.